a narrow escape, and an Airbus A320 in the middle of a Siberian field. The 165 passengers and crew had a nerve-wracking morning as the pilots realized they would not be able to land at their destination. Ural Airlines Flight 1383 took off from Sochi bound for Omsk, but mid-flight, the pilots declared an emergency. Hydraulic systems weren't responding, so they needed a longer runway than the one in Omsk.
У нас передняя стойка неуправляемая будет.
Пилот 1383 понял, сообщим Новосибирску, обеспечат вам посадку.
Серег, что, серьезно? Так, гидравка зеленая вытекла полностью.
The stink didn't end there. With landing gear and brake problems, as well as strong headwinds, the pilots realized that heading to Novosibirsk wasn't going to work either. The forced landing damaged the aircraft, but everyone escaped unscathed, and some passengers even said the landing felt softer than on a normal runway.
300, 200. 100, 50, 40, 20, 10, 5.
What do we know about the flight? Ural Airlines Flight 1383 was a scheduled flight from Sochi to Omsk in Russia. On September 12, 2023, the Airbus A320 operated the flight, carrying 159 passengers and 6 crew members. The aircraft involved was an Airbus A320-214. It made its first flight on the 2nd of February 2004. In May 2013, it was delivered to Ural Airlines and placed on the Bermudan registry. It was re-registered on the Russian registry as RA73805 on the 25th of March 2022, following the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It was suggested the incident occurred as a result of Russian airlines having difficulty in providing their planes with spare parts due to Western sanctions on Russia as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. However, Ural Airlines denied using any non-certified spare parts. So far, we know very little about the pilots. Both pilots were suspended from flying until the investigation is finished. Russian President Vladimir Putin praised the flight crew for their actions. What do we know about Ural Airline? The airline was founded in 1943 as Sverdlovsk State Air Enterprises and later became part of Aeroflot. In 2018, the company transported 9 million passengers. The Ural Airlines fleet consists of 52 aircraft, mainly Airbus. A similar incident occurred near Moscow in 2019. On the 15th of August 2019, Ural Airlines Flight 178 suffered a bird strike after taking off from Zhukovsky and crash-landed in a cornfield 5 kilometers away from the Russian airport. All on board survived.
Flight 6178 had just taken off from Zhukovsky Airport in Moscow when the emergency happened. The Ural Airlines early morning flight from Moscow to Simferopol in Crimea hit a flock of seagulls. Birds were sucked into both engines, disabling them. As the pilots of the Airbus A321 lost power and height, they had no choice but to glide towards a crash landing. The airliner came down in a cornfield, a kilometer from the runway. The pilot gave instructions to passengers how to evacuate. The 233 passengers and crew on board escaped, shaken but all alive.
Back to Flight 1383. While on its final approach to Omsk on runway 07, the crew initiated a go-around and reported a hydraulic failure affecting the brakes. They then decided to continue the flight to Novosibirsk, where there are longer runways. Now let's listen to the live radio.
Влево, зона ожидания.
1383, разрешаю. Влево на зону ожидания, набор 800 метров.
Набор 800 метров, левая орбита Светловск, 1383.
Трансочно левая орбита у вас будет сейчас, например?
Да-да, подскажу, подождите.
500.
Число 1383, у нас гидравлика. Потеря гидравлики.
400.
Сейчас зону ожидания выполним и далее подскажу вам.
1383, понял.
300.
1383, принимаем решение на Новосибирск.
1383 вас понял, на Новосибирск. Правым разворотом курс
100.
первоначально 0.30.
Don't sink.
Правым курс 030,
Don't
курс
sink.
1383.
Don't sink. Don't sink.
Набирайте эшелон 70.
Набираю 70, число 1383.
1383 готов писать фактическую Новосибирска.
Пишем число 1383. И сначала викторение, дальше мы по топливу посмотрим.
1383, справа курс 0.30 до команды.
Готовы писать погоду число 1383.
1383 за 01.30. Погода в Новосибирске. Ветер 10 градусов, 2 метра в секунду. Видимость более 10. Значительная облачность на 90. Температура плюс 5. Точка росы плюс 5. QNH 1006 гектопаскалей. Полоса в работе 0,7, коэффициент сцепления 0,6. И для полосы 34 коэффициент сцепления 0,6. На посадку без изменений QFI 993 гектопаскаль.
Информацию принял, седло 1383.
What do we know? During the landing approach to Omsk, there was a hydraulic failure which led to the auto brakes filling up and possibly the spoiler. In such a case, the landing is aborted and a go-around is carried out. But was the decision to fly to the alternative airport right? Or could a landing in Omsk still have been carried out? Runway 07 in Omsk is 8,200 feet long. Under normal conditions, an A320 needs 5,300 feet to come to a stop. Without auto brakes and spoilers, the only option is manual maximum braking, and depending on the pilot's experience, you don't need more than 7,000 feet for this. A landing would be possible. However, at this point, we don't know whether the manual brakes were also damaged. The pilots climbed to an altitude of 18,000 feet and flew to Tolmachevo Airport in Novosibirsk, 600 kilometers away. This airfield has a longer runway of almost 12,000 feet. 200 kilometers before reaching Novosibirsk, near the village of Kamenka, the pilots reported a mayday and made an emergency landing in the field. The reason for the emergency was that the fuel had run out. How can this happen? Since there is hardly any information available at the moment, we can only assume. While hydraulics are lost, it is possible to extend the landing gear, but in most cases it cannot be fully retracted. So we can assume that they flew the route to Novosibirsk with the landing gear partially extended. The greater air resistance means that significantly more fuel is consumed, which in turn was not fully calculated by the pilots. It remains unclear why the pilots didn't notice it. The current fuel consumption and the remaining flight time are displayed on the fuel page. Since we have no information, this remains a mystery. At 2:26 Coordinated Universal Time, an emergency was declared and the pilots transmitted the transponder code 7700 for an air emergency. The aircraft began a descent. When they reached 5,000 feet, they selected a suitable landing area and made the decision to land in a field. At 2:44, the aircraft landed about 185 kilometers west of Novosibirsk Airport on a field near the village of Kamenka. All 165 occupants survived and no serious injuries were reported. The photographs taken by the passengers afterwards show that the aircraft was hardly damaged. This emergency landing was definitely a great pilot achievement. Hopefully, we'll find out more about the flight soon. Thanks for watching. We would be happy if you leave a like or comment.